friends and sim Historians, welcome back to my Victorian Sims challenge. Here we are starting off with the Jung household, and I know today's episode is going to be, it's going to be a lot. I'm sorry. It's going to be really chaotic and there are going to be a lot of weddings. So if you are not into romance, you might want to leave now. So we are hanging out at Philippa's house. I know that they're technically the kings, but there was a lot of stuff we didn't get to cover last episode. So this is Maurice O'Neilly. This is Della's brother-in-law that she's been living with, and he's been taking care of her and her kids. He actually pops by Philippa's little tea shop because he's interested in opening a bookshop. He is a bookbinder and a bookseller and a printer. And so he really wants to collaborate with Philippa and open up a little tiny tea room in the bookshop that he wants to open. So he is visiting her in the tea shop. He's meeting her for the first time. They've kind of seen each other around, but haven't actually gotten to meet. So he invites her over to their little house, and it's very small. It's a proper little cottage. It's a proper little cottage, but Philippa feels right at home. Growing up, the Kings didn't have a lot of money, and it was really her marriage to the mayor that kind of put the Kings on the map. But this means that Philippa's comfortable in a lot of different settings, a lot of different social classes, and so she's not really judging him for what it is. In fact, they actually get along quite well. They are really enjoying each other's company and also the prospects of working on a new site together. In fact, he's making her giggle quite a lot, and he actually starts autonomously flirting with her, which I was like, oh my god. And I know some of you guys, she's a crush on him. I know some of you guys didn't really want Philippa to remarry, and I totally respect that, but also it's really normal in the 19th century and earlier for women to have been married 3 or 4 times. It happened. We end up making the decision that the best way for them to collaborate on the project is for them to get married. So this is a little bit of a business proposition, but they know it might be a little weird for them to work together otherwise. And as we saw, Philippa has a bit of a crush on Maurice, and I don't know if Maurice really has a crush on her yet. We'll have to kind of see how that happens. So this is, of course, a bit of an arranged marriage. Well, pink soup. Okay. This is, of course, a bit of a marriage of convenience, and that's totally okay. That happens every so often. And Philippa also had the most passionate, loving first marriage. So I was kind of okay making her second marriage a little bit more of convenience. We'll see where they go from here, but I'm thinking really positively. I mean, they get along really well. I think they're going to be swell business partners, and we'll see what happens from there. So she decides for another wedding to happen in her little tea garden in her greenhouse on the lot, and he's actually going to move in with her and leave the little cottage to Della and her children. Although, as we know, that won't be her home for very long because she is now engaged to Bertie. And we have everyone here. I kind of made a terrible mistake in having the wedding where it is because it's just chaos and crowded in this little back spot. I was expecting people to move into the main part of the household after the ceremony, but that did not happen. And so you can see we've got a ton of people here. I also forgot to change people out of their wedding attire from their previous weddings. It's fine. Ignore that. And here they are. They're honestly really cute. So for those of you part of the Discord, you might recognize Maurice and Della. So Della is actually from Lady Simmer's challenge and neighborhood Alfreda Isle. So I do collaborations every so often, and if you have a sim in your historical hood that you want to move to New Whitby, hit me up in the comments below, send me a message on the Discord. I love to collaborate, and this is really fun. So be sure to check out Lady Simmer's Alfreda Isle, her Victorian challenge. I'm linking that down below for you guys. It's so fun, and Lady Simmer is one of my good friends now. And so the wedding is over, and finally everyone's heading out. And we're gonna pretend that it makes sense that I'm hanging out at the Kings in a Jung episode because Jonah and his wife Winnie and their 3 triplets actually live here. So I'm pretending that it makes sense. And it actually does make sense for a reason in my mind. She actually does have a little baby, and I'm thinking this is going to be Philippa's last child, primarily for my sanity, because Philippa has so many kids. This woman is just proper baby crazy, which is kind of fun because she's been a really great businesswoman, but also has so many kids and is a great mother. And so finally, Jonah and Winnie, they've been living in the back cottage on the glass house at Mulberry Street's estate. And so they finally have enough money to build their own little cottage. It's next to Septimus's house. And there's a beautiful wildflower field in their backyard. I really love this house. It was a joy to create, as are all of them. I love creating things in The Sims 2. It brings me so much joy. And I recently found these pickable wildflowers. And of course, I couldn't, I couldn't give up this moment of enjoying Jonah Jung basking in the sun's rays, in the sunflowers and the wildflowers. And so, of course, I mean, he's precious. Jonah's crazy and I love him. He's probably one of my favorite Sims, and I know a lot of you really like Jonah too because he's just proper chaos. So I let him spend some time in the fields. I decided to send some of the kids in the fields as well. Jonah. Oh my god. I didn't mean for that to happen. Oh no. They've been in this lot for like less than 10 sim minutes. That was like a jump scare. I didn't expect that. Jonah, we had so many plans for you, involving giving you syphilis, and here we are. Okay, so I guess, well, that's the end of Jonah, and he went out with as much drama as he came in with, and his poor wife, Winnie, I mean, it honestly might have been better for them to stay on Philippa's lot, so she had this entire family support, and now she's on her own with her 3 kids, so... Oh my god. Also, Mary wound up having enough money to move into this cottage, and she actually wound up taking in her grandchildren. This is Samuel and Ira, and their mother Priscilla died in childbirth, and so Mary decides to take them in. Of course, their father, Aldridge Westcott, doesn't really have a lot of time because he's a minor and a single dad, and it wasn't really working. So, since Philippa Really? Okay, so now we have a fire. This episode's going great. And so, Mary, unfortunately, catches on fire. And... Guys, I didn't plan for any of this to happen. This just happens as you play the game. The Sims 2 is chaotic. So we lose Mary, and then Samuel catches on fire, and we end up losing both of Priscilla's children. I guess they should have stayed with Aldridge. And look at Grimm just like, again? Really? You guys are terrible. You're a terrible simmer. So we end up losing Mary. August, her son, and then her 2 grandchildren, Samuel and Ira. And so, interestingly enough, while the fire is going on, Bertie just comes by and steals our newspaper and has little flames and hates Mary. I'm not saying he's responsible for the fire, but I'm also not saying that he's not. So... Our dear Hugh Patrick, the only one of Mary's kids left, thankfully is a teenager, so he gets to remain in the house. And he actually ends up marrying Tilly Pearl Holloway. So we have some good things happening. Now, some of you guys did say that you wanted me to do some little family tree updates. I do have that linked below. Sometimes I forget, but I try and do it every episode. So I'm just going to go like real quick through the Jung household family tree. So here we have Nellie at the top, and her eldest son, Edmund Tobias Jung. Of course, Nellie has had 2 marriages, but she didn't have any kids from her first marriage. So Edmund has had 2 wives. His first one was Emma Breyer Price, and they only had 1 kid together, and that's Peter Herman. And his second wife, of course, is Lee Bai, and they have 2 kids. They have Fei Bao, and of course, this is with Lee, and then we have Aldous Lee Jung. We're gonna keep Peter as the heir, though, because he's the eldest. And then we've got this tragic encompassment of Mary's existence. You can see that we've lost Priscilla and childbirth and her 2 sons. I feel so bad about losing them, but like, I downloaded a More Dangerous Fires mod, and that was probably not the best call, but I did it anyway because I love the chaos. And then we lost her second daughter, Agatha, just in child mortality. She was sick. She died of tuberculosis. And then we've lost August Branson in the fire as well. And that just leaves us with Hugh Patrick Westerfield and his new wife, Tilly. And then they had a daughter, named Corinne Mary, of course, after his mother. So that's that part. We also have Edith Jung here, who died as an infant. God, there's a lot of deaths here. I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm such a bad simmer sometimes. And so moving on to Jonah, of course, Jonah marries Winnie Harvey, and you can see that here. She is still alive. Thank goodness. And she's the daughter of Ivy and Sydney Harvey. So Jonah and Winnie had triplets, and these will be the only kids they have since Jonah is now dead. We have Margaret Leela, Sylvie Prudence, and Thompson Grover. I decided to go with Thompson after the former surname of Nellie, because her last name was originally Thompson when we first started this challenge. Let me know in the comments below if you've been here since Nellie was a Thompson. That feels so long ago. And then, of course, we have Olivier. I accidentally named him Olivier, and then I just decided to leave it. So he also died as an infant. And then, of course, we have one of the only surviving children, aside from Edmund, which is Bertram. We also call him Bertie. Bertie and Della have their first son, Percival Owen. And then Della, from her previous marriage, has Rosabelle and Hiram. They're both teens already, and they're honestly really cute with Bertram. Bertram is a really great stepdad to them. So that is where we are today. And you guys saw a couple sneak peeks in that, but sorry, it's just how it is. So Bertram and Della are really, really sweet together. They get along super well. For some reason, Della doesn't want their wedding announced in the society papers. She likes to keep things very quiet. So they wound up just having a little private ceremony in their front yard with some family and friends, people that they trust and that Della trusts. And so here's Della as a little housewife, and I think she's so cute. We give her some little flowers from the herb garden out back, and Della honestly is really happy to have moved into this beautiful little home. Of course, Bertram is the local apothecary. At least he is aiming to open up an apothecary shop soon, and that should be happening probably next rotation, or the rotation after. So we honestly never really thought that Bertram was going to get married. He's always been like tied to this idea of having an apothecary shop, and it's more important to him than anything. But he, as we saw, is just smitten with Della. And her 2 kids are really fantastic. Here's little Rosabelle, and she's got Della's big eyes. And then we end up, since we didn't have a proper wedding, we have a little reception at the home. Hiram is a gentle, sweet baby and is super afraid of social encounters, and so he's kind of like sticking by his mom's side, like, do I have to participate? Can I go read upstairs? And she's like, no. And of course we have after all the deaths that have happened in this family, we have a lot of aspiration failure. So poor Peter has just lost his mind, and we do see Aldous and Rosabelle becoming little friends and playing some tag or Catch, and I think they're really cute together. It's really nice to see Rosabelle getting on with her step cousins, and we're just gonna call them cousins because they are really supportive of Bertram. This family has had a lot of unconventional families, especially given Mary's elopement and stuff. And so it's nice to see everyone getting along. We've got Peter, who is absolutely getting down, and, also Winnie. It's nice to see Winnie happy. It's been a little while since Jonah's death in game. And gosh, we have poor little Hiram who's just like, I just want to read. I don't really want to socialize. Just leave me alone. Let me sit in the parlor and read by myself. And he's ignoring the pie that Bertie made. Bertie loves to bake. And unfortunately, Peter and Della aren't getting along. I think Della is aware that Peter is a little bit of an alcoholic, and she considers that a bit of an intemperance, and so she's not a big fan of Peter. And honestly, it's just par for the course for everyone in the Jung family to not get along anyway. So Della, welcome to the family. Welcome to the chaos. And in the middle of the party, like, Hiram just has so much social anxiety that Della's like, okay, hang on, kid, like, I'll read to you. Let's just take a minute. And Lee's sobbing. I think she's really struggling with the loss of Mary and Jonah, because this is her family too, and she doesn't really know what to do with all of these emotions. And honestly, Rosabelle and Hiram must be the neatest kids that I've ever had. They're picking up after the entire party, and everyone's really happy as well to see Winnie out and about. We weren't really expecting Winnie to be out so soon after her husband's death. So back at the main Jung house, things are a little desperate. And Lee is working on her cooking skills as well. We are going to actually make them members of St. Philip's Church. They will eventually move to the Catholic Church after Della and Bertie are a little bit closer members. And honestly, they're not that religious of a family anyway. And Peter is still having his existential crisis. Some of you guys have made some comments about insane asylums, and if anyone in this challenge needed it, it might be Peter. But we're not going to go that far yet. We don't actually have any asylums in town. It's also expensive, and the Jungs can't really afford to lock anyone away. But thankfully, the kiddos are actually doing all right. We don't have a ton of aspiration failure anymore. Aldous is happy, and we finally get Peter to be a somewhat functioning sim in the household. He's helping out with some of the household chores. He's doing some cooking. We just kind of need it. Lee is really torn up about the fact that she's not going to have another baby. We talked about that a little bit last episode, and she was really, really hoping for another kiddo, but they're so close to being elders, it's not going to happen. And so Lee's a little bit upset, and so Peter, being the good stepson that he is actually taking care of a lot of the cooking for her and helping out. So it's also festival time. We have our first festival. It's the St. Philip's Church Festival, and we're having it across the lawn on the Pricery Stables lot. So you can see a lot of people are here. We've got some flower stomping in true Sims fashion. And we also have a nun who is gambling, because why not? It's The Sims. So everyone's pretty happy. We've actually downloaded these cute little Ferris wheels and merry-go-round. We've got the Averys here. The Averys come to every event in town, and I kind of love it. They're such socialites, and we actually have some sweet and tender little moments between Edmund and his wife Lee. They're both about to age up into elders this rotation, which kind of breaks my heart, because I feel like everything's happening so fast. And then Maurice comes with his stepson. This is Nathaniel, and Nathaniel's showing off the pretty sunset and everything. And we've got the kiddos. We have Aldous, and Faye riding the merry-go-round and having a really good time. Aldous is loving all the playground equipment that we have really kind of for the first time. And Peter is taking out some of his emotions by throwing some axes in the most Jung fashion, honestly. Like, this this doesn't surprise me. So some of this stuff is custom content. The axe throwing is actually from the Bon Voyage package, so you can find that in your game as long as you have Bon Voyage. And look at these two smitten as kittens enjoying the Ferris wheel and just having a lot of fun. Please ignore the incontinuity of the sky. We had to play around with some time and some crashing, but that's neither here nor there. So of course Peter runs into Lydia Holloway and they actually end up chatting. So these two have sort of been courting just quite casually. They don't always get along. The relationship is a little bit fiery, but Peter is really enjoying her, and all Peter has known growing up is family fights. So he doesn't actually think this is any different. Peter's kind of been through the ringer. We've got Alston Clark, I think he's a Clark, and Philippa here, and we also have an autonomous first kiss. So things are going really well for them, and they actually enjoy a little bit of the moonlight together here on the Ferris wheel. I let them have a little bit of physical contact. It's just a church festival. I mean, it's not like a society event or anything. So he ends up proposing to Lydia. Shocking to me, she actually says yes. I was honestly very worried about whether or not she would say yes. And so you can see there she just fell in love with him for the first time and they're engaged. I also kind of can't keep these two off of each other now, so that's not great socially, but we've had a lot of things happen at this festival that maybe aren't exactly like socially acceptable. I think we need to get them married ASAP before this turns into a problem. To be honest. And back at home after the festival, we do have a couple people from the festival head home with us. The Averys, as always, taking advantage of every social interaction, are here for little Aldous Lee's teenage birthday. I'm so excited to see what he looks like. So Aldous is not going to be the heir of this house. Peter is the heir. So Peter and Lydia will be the next couple in this family, and Aldous and Faye will both move off of the lot as spares. So here we go. We have Aldous as a teenager. I need to change that hair because it's clipping in really weird ways for him, and for some reason he feels a bit like a pleasure sim to me. We're going to go ahead and keep his likes and dislikes there, and then here he is. I think he actually looks really, really cute. I love the Jungs though. I really love their genetics, like, quite a lot. They just look so individual and so unique. So Aldous and Peter, now that like Aldous is a little older, are actually like good friends, and it's really cute. We see a little bit more of a lighthearted spirit with Faye, which I really love to see. Faye's been a bit of a serious sim, but I enjoy seeing her have fun. And Lee is so happy that her kids are getting along. They're older, and we've got Mabel Harvey there as well. Peter wakes up and it is his wedding day. He is so excited to marry Lydia. He's had a bit of a crush on her for a while and wasn't really sure that she was actually going to accept his proposal. For some reason, the Averys are still here because the Averys never leave, and I don't think the Averys are ever at home, to be honest. They're just everywhere. And so the kiddos are trying to get their homework done before the wedding today. They've got a lot of work to do. And do Sims in The Sims 2 ever do homework at a table, or do they only work on the floor? Because I've never seen them do homework anywhere but the floor. So I'm sort of unconvinced. So we end up having some family members over. We've got Rosabelle, who's recently aged up into a teenager, and I think is like the cutest sim I've ever seen. Thank you, Lady Simmer. Thank you. This girl is just so cute. So cute. And her twin brother, Hiram, and I love him. I love him. He's so soft and so gentle and so academic. I really wish we could send him to university, but they don't exactly have the money to do that. Although I think Bertram would absolutely send them together. And it's these two, it's their birthday today as well. And everyone is downstairs and they're just canoodling upstairs. So I have to send them down to actually celebrate their birthday. And so Lee is up first, and then we will do her husband. It's really nice to see Bertie and his family invited to all these events, and the kids are just like welcome and accepted. And look, we even have Hiram celebrating and being social, which is really lovely to see. So Lee is an elder now. I feel like it was just yesterday that she moved here from China and fell in love with Edmund. And gosh, Edmund has been through the ringer. He's lost a lot of siblings. He's lost his wife, and he's had a second wife. So I'm really kind of sentimental to see him age up into an elder, but you know what? It happens, and everyone is so excited for him because he's kind of had a hard life. And here we go. Oh, we are gonna want to change that hair. That hair does not look good on you. He, of course, ages up poorly, as is tradition in the Jung household, and he looks a bit like a crotchety old man, if we're being honest. Like, I don't think he's going to be a nice, sweet old man. And here we have Della booing her son's piano playing. Della, be nice. Okay, so now it's actually time for the wedding. I told you guys it was yesterday, but it's actually today. Ignore me. I mean, don't, because you're watching this episode. So everyone piles into the little carriage that the Jungs have. I think the carriage was actually new this episode. So yeah, the Jungs actually have a carriage now. They're moving up in the world, and it is time for the wedding from today's episode. I know it's wedding season. This is the second wedding we've had today. Yes. Unfortunately, the log keeps turning into pink soup, and so I wasn't able to actually record the wedding, unfortunately. But we do have some cute little scenes from these two dancing in St. Catherine's Church. Della put in a good word for them, and they had the wedding at the new cathedral, even though the Jungs aren't proper, Catholic yet. But these two are really cute. They get home and they're autonomously having some fun together, working on the next generation. And Edmund is honestly really pleased. He's so happy. These two, I can't keep off of each other. Like, I don't have ACR set that high, and they're constantly canoodling. So we're just gonna let them be, and everyone's going to let them have an enjoyable day. Since their wedding went so terribly, I decide that maybe we should have a custom portrait done to celebrate their marriage. And so this is Cedric Cunningham. Faye danced with him at the Avery Ball a few episodes ago, and he is actually our town's local artist. He's sort of part of the intellectual society, and I am going to have him paint all of our portraits in town for this generation to see what we can do. And so, as you remember, Faye had a little bit of a crush on him. She's a big fan of Cedric. She's also just like a very intellectual sim. And so, while Cedric is painting, she decides to sit down and create some ambiance by playing the piano. Most of the Jungs are really excellent pianists, and I think Faye wants to continue her music education, although no one in the Jung household is particularly artistic. I told you, I can't keep them off of each other. We are going to be swimming in the next generation with these two. Is that generation 4, I think? I think they'll be Gen 4. So cute. So Cedric is finishing up his painting. The kid is getting home from school, which is just Aldous, I think. I actually used a pose box to create this little pose for these two, and I think it looks really cute. So we're gonna pay him with this piano. It's about 2,000 simoleons, and I'm really glad he accepts. I was a little worried we would struggle to pay him, but it's okay. There are other ways you can do this. This is just, I think, what is really easy. And Faye is, complimenting him like, your painting skills are really, really beautiful. I'm so impressed. And also, I made a pie. Will you stay for pie? And of course, Cedric does stay for pie. Her little crush is still a bit unrequited. He's a little old for her at the moment, but I think he views her as a good intellectual equal, and that's really enjoyable for him. So that's going to be all for today. I'm actually going to be changing up my rotations a little bit, so they'll still come in the same order we do. We do King, Jung, and then Price. But the issue is that there's so much happening in my hoods right now that I need to shorten my rotations. So I'm probably going to do somewhere between 3 and 5 days for a single rotation, so we can focus a little bit more on the social experience, which is what excites me so much about the Victorian Sims. So let me know, like, if you play this, how long are your rotations? Because I started off with 3, and then I went to 5 days, and then I went to a week, and I think things are just flying by a little quicker than I can handle at the moment. So that's kind of the update for today. I know today was a little bit of like housekeeping and catching up around town, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. So thank you so much for your presence. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.